Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Planet Nerdtooine podcast. Today, not only will we have the great Year of the Collector joining us, as he always does, as the co host, but we also today are welcoming a fantastic guest, one of our good friends, the man, the myth, the legend, JJ from the Indie Inkwell and other glorious
I'm
social
all over the
media
damn place,
platforms.
man. How's
He's
it going,
doing a lot of
everybody?
different
Renaissance man over here.
I must say, this is only the second time I've ever been on someone else's stream, and it's the first one that's been doing it live. So this is a very nice change of pace. I'm not the one having to worry about controlling everything and stuff. I
right.
get to just sit and hang out with
And
you guys.
I am looking like a fool. So now that is out the way, welcome everyone. We're really excited to be here today. We're going to be talking about something that's really important, but it doesn't seem like the majority of the comic book community seems to either care or know. So today we are going to try and kind of explain why we think this is such a big deal, what is the big deal, and what this means for the whole comic book community, but especially the indie comic book community. And with that, anyone have some opening arguments or opening words they would like to say before we really get running here?
Yes, let me tell our audience, whoever is watching, what it is that we're talking about, right? And it's the fall of Diamond Distributors. If you don't know anything about comics or you don't know anything outside of like the actual hobby, Diamond was like basically the number one distributor for all comic books for the past close to 30 years, right? They
They had pretty
basically,
much a monopoly on the industry
yes, that
for those
that
30
is
years.
Isn't
that
it
is
closer
the
to 40 really though?
It's
right,
closer to 40, yeah, but everything
right.
on the internet is saying 30, so that's what you guys are
Yeah,
probably gonna end
because
up seeing
because
online.
yeah,
I know for me it's ever since I was born. You know what
right.
I mean? And I'm and I'm
100%.
I'm,
Yeah,
I'm inching
yeah,
close to 40, so it's got to
yeah.
be.
For our entire lifetime, every comic book was distributed, right, through Diamond, right? And when I say that, I mean everything you can think of, right? Like you'll find in the shelves of your local comic book store, your DC, your Marvel, your Image, your IDW, your Boom, your
Archie,
Dark
freaking
Horse, your
everything.
Archie, even your DC Connect, your Marvel previews,
Your
uh,
indie publishers went through Diamond.
all of
Yep.
it, right? And like JJ was saying, they had a monopoly on the distribution, right? Um, and this is basically where my knowledge is gonna end when I stop talking here, because um, what I do know is um, you have your publishers, they'll print the book, and instead of like delivering themselves, right, they always have a middleman to distribute these books, right, these comic books. And that was Diamond for the most part, right? And what happens is, um, typically you've seen this in any other type of business. When a company grows so large that basically overwhelms and basically pushes everybody out and become a monopoly, they start over the years, they start to basically ease off or relax on their business policies, on their practices, right? They started
Standards.
to give preferential treatment or more of their attention and their efforts to their big customers, right? If you have a, let's say you live in, let's say, perfect example here, Colorado, right? The big fish here in Colorado is Mile High Comics, right? It's been around forever. It's a huge comic book store. Imagine like walking inside a Walmart, but it's
Yeah,
just
I
a
was literally about
comic
to
book
say it's like a
store.
And
Walmart
Right,
they're
just for
actually gonna
comic
be tied into
collectibles.
one of the rumors I'm gonna be talking
right.
about near the
Okay,
end of this
perfect.
conversation,
Perfect.
so
Perfect. That was not planned. That was not planned. So imagine there is an issue with distributing, right? There was a limited amount of copies, or some books were not
Got damaged.
printed right. If you have to make an example right out of this, Diamond will give preference and will attend their big customer first, which, let's say, Maha Comics, right? Because they're a big face. They will order the most out of everybody else in Colorado State, right? And then they will address whatever issues the smaller stores will have, right? Or by the end of their monopoly, they would just completely ignore whatever problems or situations those small stores have, because it was like, well, they didn't get their books. We'll get to them eventually, or we'll refund them eventually. Let's worry about the big customers,
Yep.
our Mile High, our midtowns, our whatever big stores, right? And what happened when we got to COVID? Publishers,
Everything shut down.
right? Everything shut down,
Mhm.
and publishers like Marvel and DC saw the writing on the wall when it came to Diamond, right? And what I mean by that is they saw that Diamond was going to go out of business if they continue with their practices, right? So they decided, okay, we want to separate ourselves from Diamond. How can we do that? We'll create a new distributor, right? And that's when Lunar, and I think the other one is called Penguin.
Now,
Mhm.
Penguin Random House has been around for a long, 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 long time in the book publishing side of
Yeah.
things, like
So
actual like novels and actual hardcover books.
so Luna was the one that was created from
Yes.
scratch, right?
Yeah.
And then Marvel and DC and others have started to follow suit in 2020. They started to do businesses to distribute their books to Lunar and Penguin. So basically, um, Diamond lost basically their two big fishes. What's up, Cody Collects? Saying hi on the chat there.
What?
The big fishes, of course, Marvel and DC, they left, right? And ever since that departure, since that fallout, Diamond has been like on on the
They've been on
eh,
life support for about
on a
3 or
free
4
fall,
years, it
on a
feels like.
yeah,
Yeah.
on a free fall, right? As soon as I think it was Boom or Image could um
Yeah,
distribute to somebody else,
that was like
they
the
did,
final nail in the coffin for
right?
really, I think, is when Boom signed on with Penguin exclusively. Well, I think Boom technically, I mean, was bought by Penguin, clear if I'm not mistaken.
It's a
As the
very complicated
it's
situation with all
it's yeah,
that. There's so many
but
contracts going back and forth with that situation. It's
Right.
hard to keep
So
track of what's going on.
yeah,
This is the state of Diamond right now. They have been losing money, of course. Hey, Pepper, back then, what's up? Thank you
what up?
for
They haven't
joining
just been
us.
losing money, they've been hemorrhaging
Right.
money.
Every
Yeah,
quarter they lose money. Back to back to back, they just been losing money. So they have been downsizing. They went from having warehouse all over the country to now just the one warehouse. They fire people. They've been late on their books. I think my local comic book store here, Muse Comics in Colorado Springs, the owner, his name is George. He told me that Diamond deliveries have been late every
yep,
week for months, right? So that is
and
the
short probably too.
right. Yeah, not too long ago, I want to say when Satana, the week that Satana #1 came out, he got a wrong order uh, from Diamond. Like a bunch of his books went to another store, and his books and the other store's books got like distributed through multiple. It wasn't even like a 1-for-1 swap. It was like a like a really bad mixed up, right? So
Like the worst golden ticket charade ever.
And what's really the I think a lot of the biggest issue is that for 32 plus years they could just do that, because where else were you gonna go?
there were
There was
nobody else.
nobody
Now
else, and none
and
of
now
these
with
comic book companies had the money to distribute themselves.
yeah.
It just wasn't there. They didn't have the logistics support, they didn't have the infrastructure set up, all that stuff, which kinda leads us into where Diamond is at now, which if, Nerdtooine could pull up that first slide there, Diamond has pretty much completely given up. They've filed bankruptcy as of January 14th. And so they have until April 1st to find a buyer for the company, or they could just shut down entirely. So it's gotten to a point now where, okay, Marvel and DC and the bigger companies, they're probably going to be fine. They can afford to, they've already left Diamond, but Diamond owes dozens and dozens and dozens of companies a lot of money.
Yeah. No,
The total, I think I forget the exact number, but I know it is at least 46 million. I think it is. There it is, $46,764,299.86. Now that's all together, and that's only what they've reported so far. That's without any courts going in to actually do any fact finding. That's without any like lawyers going through and really dissecting who is owed what. It's insane.
Yeah, this
no,
is Diamond saying what they know they owed. This is not a after
This is not a
being reviewed
final
from creditors, right? Because like
yeah.
people are gonna come up there and it's like, no, no, I know you reported you owe us, X amount, but it's technically this because it was wrong, and he's been collecting interest probably depending on what the deal was, right? If it was getting books to distribute and then pay back, if it was people that owe their old severance for being fired,
There's
rent.
books that are still sitting in warehouses that
yeah,
need to be
no,
shipped that won't be getting shipped. There are
ever
companies saying like I know Atlantic Press, they have just said they're putting a halt on all of their creator owned projects. This is Black Panel Press. This is another company, but their publisher is saying that Diamond owes them alone $28,000, saying that our distributor Diamond Comics has filed for bankruptcy, owing us over $28,000 altogether. We need that money in order to pay our authors royalties and to print our upcoming releases, plus everything else that goes into running this business. We have a plan to set things back on course, but we need help. So we've started a GoFundMe campaign to raise donations to get us through the next few months.
Let me tell you,
The fact that these company owners are having to start GoFundMes because Diamond doesn't want to pay these debts back is crazy.
No, and as someone who has gone through the process of printing his own book and working with a smaller distribution company so that I can get my book distributed. If I was screwed over for 28 grand, that is the end of not only my comic, but my life. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like,
right. That's that's a car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And like, I know in the grand scheme of things, you think, okay, that's a company being owed that money, but that company can't pay the people that work there if they don't get that money. These companies' profit margins, you think a restaurant's razor thin? The profit margins in the comic industry are like even thinner.
Nothing.
Yeah, and that's the
like,
thing
about it's literally you make your money back and just to be able to put out the next
just
one.
to put out the next book. Like
now, I was
I've interviewed over 300 indie comic book creators since I've started in this whole scene since 2020. And every one of them have said that.
That's the thing about small publishers, right? They have overhead, right? If they have an office, if they have employees, like in the quote said, they have to pay those writers back, those royalties, the artists, right? And whatever money was actually made from the last series or the last project, it has to be invested, not just paying on the overhead of the business, but on hiring the next crew, the next creators, and putting money to put out the next book, right? It's just
printing a book, printing comics is not cheap. I mean, it's not
uber
expensive,
like, of course,
but it's not cheap, and it's
like
only
we said,
getting worse.
Marvel and DC, they'll be fine. They have billions of dollars behind them. They're like, their books are going to come out regardless. Like eventually they're going to get their system and set like perfect with Lunar. It's going to take a while to get as good as Diamond was at one point at doing this, but things take time. But it's the small companies that are really going to take a hit. Like just with the Indie Inkwell, we've had 4 or 5 guests just within the last couple of weeks call and cancel because they don't know if their books are going to come out or not.
Damn.
Yeah.
Not because they don't want to come on the show or not because scheduling conflicts, just because they don't know if they should even promote their stuff because they don't know when it might come out now.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the problem, like we were talking about before, JJ. It's because a lot of people seem to just go, well, Marvel and DC, and I guess by extension, Image they'll be fine. They'll find a way to get done. So
Spider-Man ain't gonna go nowhere. Superman ain't gonna go nowhere. Nothing like that. But the problem is when the other companies start going away, you start getting stagnation. Lack of competition breeds staleness.
And we're literally looking at that with Diamond right now. That is why we're in this position, because
there
Diamond
was
got
no
away with it for so
competition,
long.
and there was no need. There was no incentive for Diamond to pay through on their bills and on their debts because nobody was going to hold them accountable because they were the only game in town.
They still have to do business with them.
Right.
So yeah.
So even if you're getting screwed over, if you want your books to come out, guess what? You got to work with us anyway. Like,
Right. Yeah, and if anybody's watching, right, if you wonder why publishers didn't just distribute their own books, well,
you got to pay for
you
printing.
right.
Usually, a comic publisher doesn't print their own books; they pay a printing
Just
company to do
just
that.
imagine building
There's
the
the trucks that
logistics,
have to
the
actually
infrastructure.
deliver the books.
I was about to
There's
say you're gonna need a warehouse for storing. You're gonna need a place for printing. You're gonna need
You're talking
trucks.
about millions and millions of dollars of
Exactly.
investment.
Right. Diamond had the infrastructure to deliver throughout the nation. And I think overseas, they had like a sister branch or a sub branch of Diamond that they had to solve. Now it's its own thing in Europe, because they need to make some money, liquidate some assets to keep whatever business they have going. Um, but we've been talking about this for weeks, right? Me, Nerdtooine, JJ has been updating every Discord server I'm in with all the updates that come out, right? Like I'm not exaggerating, right?
No, just the way you said it, though, you're like every single one that I'm in.
These articles that I keep finding.
Like,
So.
let me give you let's put it into context for people watching, right? Like, why is this is a big deal? Let's say Diamond owes, let's say IDW, enough money that if IDW doesn't get paid by, let's say, June, July, they'll go out of business because
they need that money to pay.
They need that money
bills.
for their bills, their overhead, their creators, their employees, right? Even if they downsize, they'll still have to like
which they've all been
shop.
doing. A lot of publishers have been
So what happens?
Their staff because there's no money coming in now.
So what happens outside of those licensed IPs that they have, like Ninja Turtles, or maybe some of the Naruto licenses that they've been using to print out comic books with those IPs? Nobody else is gonna pick up outside of that IPs, right? Let's say maybe Marvel picks up the license for Ninja Turtles or for maybe Sonic the Hedgehog. But what about everything else, right? You're going to lose not just those titles, those series, but everybody that's working on those series that didn't get a chance on any other book because maybe they're new, or maybe they don't have the experience, they don't have the name recognition, or it's just their first project. Let's say all of those people are going to, be out of a job. All of those people are going to be out there with less opportunities, less ways to find employment through monthly comic books, right? So, like JJ was saying, that would create saturation because if you've been reading comics for more or less than than a year, you have branched out of your Batmans, out of your Supermans, out of your Spider-Mans, right? There is a whole spectrum that the indie scene gives you that you won't see in your mainstream comics, right? And if Diamond fails to pay your Image, your IDW, your Boom, your Dark Horse, your Mad Cave Studios, say
the only
goodbye to all of
properties
that
they are going to start carrying are the ones that they can afford to carry, which means big IPs. So you're talking your G.I. Joes, your Thundercats, your Ninja Turtles, your Transformers, your Power Rangers, your your Walking Deads,
exactly. You will have to stack those in, what makes more money to what less makes money. And let's say you love Thundercats. Good example. Thundercats is a known IP, but if it falls out of the top 10 that makes more money, it might not get picked up by DC or Marvel to get more comics, more runs out of that, right? So,
well, I mean, even with this, another thing with the smaller press is Coffin Comics, man. They put out a lot of really popular, more adult-oriented horror books and stuff. And they're in the same boat, following the Chapter 11 bankruptcy. They're adapting to ensure fans and retailers still enjoy their titles without interruption, but effective immediately, they will no longer be fulfilling purchase orders of one of their most popular books, Lady Gunfinger. So they're going to be going direct to consumer now. So they're just bypassing the whole thing and altogether. And what's probably going to happen is they're going to have to spend millions of dollars to go and buy warehouse space, get trucks, get a whole shipping system in order.
And it's not easy to do that. Trust me when I tell you, as someone who does everything for his book, it is and this is just with 100 copies. I think my Ash Kid, I did like 50 copies. My Here Walks Monsters, that of everything that I've been told is true, went to print today.
That's
everything I'm told is true.
That's the rumor.
It went to print today. They have, let's put it this way, they have my money now. So it better be today. But
see, with this, even with the direct to consumer, that can still present issues, because if a shop can't afford to buy wholesale direct from them, then they're just not going to carry their books.
Yep.
So even these companies that are trying to adapt, it's going to be a struggle at first.
Yeah.
And there's even like my local comic shop, they did buy into my book to get copies in their store. So like for them, like they're lucky that I can just hand deliver them. Like,
right, but now
places,
consider that if a shop in, say, my neck of the woods up in Columbus, Ohio wants a box, you can't hand deliver that shit up here.
No, and it's going to be
it's going to cost you like a couple $100 to ship a box of comics up there. Easy.
Even if you're only doing like, I did retailer bundles for like 20 copies like that, I could probably keep the shipping under $50. You know what I mean? I could find a way to make that work. You know what I mean?
Right. But anything more
than
that's
only 20 copies. Like,
and that's not even going to make it your profit margin at that point. So, I mean,
profit margin. There is no profit margin. like,
I mean,
like
that's not even enough to stack up money for your next book. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Like, that's the thing with that.
And trust me when I tell you, that eats into it. Like, a lot. I think out of all the money I got from the Ash Can, I think like 12% was shipping alone. Like, what do you mean? Like,
right.
it was only 50 bucks.
A one-man operation. I mean, other
you
than
don't have to pay employees.
Artists,
you don't have to pay overhead for a location.
Yet.
Right. And that's right. Like you said, yet. Like,
that's why I'm saying, I've actually joked around. Like, I'm happy
major
being a small
company. Guess what? You're also going to have to find a way to do yourself. You're gonna have to find a way to distribute your shit. You're on your own.
Oh yeah. No, I'm so lucky because, like I said, I signed on with a small up and coming distribution company that's helping me out a lot with this. They negotiated everything for the printing
not
and
everyone's gonna be able to find that easy. So
no, I mean, let me tell you, we had T.S. Luther on for our last episode, part 1 of our last episode, and we were talking off air, and he's like, man, I do everything through Diamond. I'm screwed. I'm like, all right, hold on. I might have a solution. Message this guy.
But that's what it's going to end up being, is word of mouth from creator to creator, and how people actually navigate through this situation. Because, I mean, if you go to the next slide, even Atlantic Press, like I was mentioning earlier, they are in a situation like everybody else. Diamond was their major part of their income. 40 years of our existence, 40 years they've been going through Diamond. And now they have to, it says, unfortunately, this will impact our creator-owned projects. We may have to prioritize, may have prioritized things which can make us immediate funds that we can control their production and rights. In other words, for instance, we can do crowdfunding campaigns that will help stabilize our income, which we are unable to do with most of our creator-owned projects because we don't own those rights. So that's a whole company saying no more creator-owned shit for a while. And how many creators does that put out of a job? How many writers does that unemploy? How many editors? How many artists? How many inkers? How many colorists? How many letterers? How many?
The list goes on. It's like, and I think that's another part of the whole issue with this situation is, I don't know if a lot of people really genuinely know or even really care, which is fine, that all that goes into making comics. It's a lot. And, I know that it's not,
And Paperback, I just
everyone's
want to
problem.
make something clear real quick. I am not a legal expert. I am not a tax expert. I am not a bankruptcy expert. I don't know super like financial details of how all this stuff works with each individual company, because every company has a different contract with their creators and their team. So it's different for everybody.
I was too busy hitting buttons. I didn't even see half of this chat. I'm sorry, chat.
This
You know what?
is
I'm sitting here reading and
from now
listening
on,
and
that's on
talking
you.
like
that's on me. I was gonna say this. If we want to be optimistic about it, right? This is the perfect moment, and this a conversation I had with my local comic book store.
oh, you're good, Paperback. I wasn't sure what was.
This is the perfect time for entrepreneurs or business-minded people to pull some money together, to raise some funds, to get some investors, and create a new, Lunar 2.0. 2.0. Let's get
And it needs to be done with the creators. The creators need to run that and at least have a hand in creating it, because if this is also an opportunity for a lot of sharks to move in.
Yeah. Right.
This is also a lot of opportunity for a lot of desperate people to get taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
well,
again, trying to be.
Yeah, I am. I'm with you. I'm trying to be optimistic as well, but I do want to put that kind of reality out there. Like, this
you're right.
Can go a lot of different ways.
Some hedge fund could like come up with a new, take advantage of the situation that people are desperate, and then
they see a quick buck to be made, and there's no telling what they'll
squeeze
try to do.
or squeeze the life out of the small publishers. Right? We get in, we take the debt, we'll pay everybody out. Now everybody gotta, we'll buy all those contracts. Now you gotta work for us or work through us, and we're gonna raise the expenses, raise the prices, like squeeze the money out.
Which is going to drive out creator-owned properties, because no creator is going to be able to afford to buy into it.
Yeah.
What I think is the biggest worry that's going to come from this, at least in my perspective, as a creator, I feel like this is a perfect time for sharks to come in and try to convince smaller creators to let them help you, but then they own the IP.
Or a very significant percentage of the IP.
Right. That is what, in my head, I'm like, if I was a bad guy, how could I manipulate the situation? I would be like, well, if I had all this money, you go in there and say, hey, we can help you print it. We can help you get into the previews. We can help you get into shops, but we own 75% of the IP.
And we want 15% of your profits.
But that, to some people, that's enough of the dream. Like, I'm not in it to try to make a lot of money. And we talked about with TS, if you're getting into comics to become extremely wealthy, you're in the wrong business.
Yeah, you in the wrong game.
But
all right, so
that being said, I think there's definitely people need to be very careful right now. Don't do business with anyone that you don't trust thoroughly.
Do your research.
Here, Paperback Dan, he's bringing up a good point, and I wanna put it out there. I want to ask this, right? If you're watching and you're wondering, okay, if Marvel and DC saw the writing on the wall and they left, right? Why those smaller publishers didn't leave immediately with Marvel and DC, right? Why are there still publishers distributing their books through Diamond almost 5 years later? What was the reason that they haven't left there, and their companies are still relying on Diamond?
There's multiple reasons. I think the two biggest contributing factors is that one, the reason why Marvel and DC were able to do it is because they have billions of dollars to go ahead and do something like that.
They bought themselves out, basically.
Mm-hmm.
They bought themselves out.
It's very easy for them to
take a $250,000 loss on a debt and write it off. A smaller company can't do that.
And then another big issue is that for these almost 4 decades, the majority of the ordering was done not only through Diamond, but through Diamond's systems. And in these comic book shops that have been open for a long time, especially small,
it was the only comic book ordering database for comic book shops.
Only way to do it. So they have decades of business done through there. So if you want to try to get off of Diamond, you have to figure out a new system. You have to try to find a worthy replacement, which a lot, besides Lunar and Penguin, it's really good luck.
Non-existent.
Like
Non-existent.
you got to
There's
basically
a
do it on your
handful of
own.
teeny tiny little independent distributors, but even they can only do so much.
Exactly. So it was much easier for a Marvel or a DC or even Image to be like, all right, we're just gonna take a shot and hope that for the best. If some of these indie companies take a shot and miss,
They're
that's
done.
it. Like that's
I mean,
good night. End of the dream.
what is it? Blood Moon Comics. Blood Moon is that's a
Oh my
publisher that I've done
God,
a lot of work
yeah.
with. I've interviewed quite a few of their creators. They're good people over there. They do amazing horror stuff, and they're not publishing anything now.
I think they made an announcement that they were coming back, like a year, 2 years ago, and now they say,
Yeah, so what had happened was they had financial problems a few years back, right after the pandemic, and they went on a hiatus to try and secure some funding, do what they had to do to get it back up and running. They got back up and running. They started putting books out again, and then this crap happens. So they
and not for nothing, but like as a horror comic writer, I was looking into them and thinking, you know what, maybe
I was going to say at one point, I know you were in talks with them
like,
about stuff. So
like
I mean,
I was literally like thinking about maybe if the ownership part is right, where I own the IP and I can do whatever I want, maybe I do sign on with Blood Moon Comics,
right?
and then, like,
because they're a good company, they were reputable, they made sure their people got paid. Like everybody over there worked super fucking hard. Excuse my language, but
you're allowed to swear on
you get
Planet
3 F-bombs
Nerdtooine.
for
it says,
episode.
unfortunately, we are left with tens of thousands of dollars in unpaid invoices. Tens of thousands of dollars to a small company it will shut them down.
Yeah.
Now they haven't said they're going under, but everything is on hold.
Mhm.
All their back catalog that they still have already printed and stocked, they've given over to another distributor just so they can sell it off and get rid of the inventory. But
Man, that's sad.
I mean, it's crazy.
That's sad. Putting all that work, time, effort,
You can't even order anything on their
resources
website now. You
in.
have to go to this other spot. I think it's called Sunburst or something like that. If you go to bloodmoon.com, it redirects you now.
Bro, it's sad because they put all that work into coming back, being financially able to coming back for this to be like out of their hands,
just for this
out of
to
their
knock
control.
them right back down.
That's terrible.
Now, thankfully, like I said, they haven't said they're actually out of business, which is a very good thing. They need to stick around because we need as many indie publishers as we can put out there that are doing legit good business. Like,
yeah. People need to
and
understand,
like
right?
we were talking.
If I'm sorry, Nerdtooine,
You good?
If you don't really pay attention to like who wrote what, who drew what, who inked what, who colored what, most of your favorite creators did not start like from the get-go at Marvel, at DC, or even at Image.
They started at these tiny small press spots. They started at Heavy Metal Magazine when it was really small. They started at Image when it was tiny. They started at IDW when all they had was the Turtles.
Most creators don't get a big opportunity to write at DC or Marvel from the get-go. Most creators,
some of them, it takes them 20, 30, 40, 50 years to get over to those companies.
Right? Some creators don't even never cross over to the big publishers. And
some never want to, which is also great. I mean,
that's why we need, like, the more indie publisher, the more indie comics you get out there, the more opportunities are there for creators. Paperback has a question. I think we addressed this at the very beginning. 100% laziness, complacency, incompetence, and prioritizing their big customers over everybody else is what led Diamond to where they at now, right? Like the example I gave earlier. If you take Colorado State, for example, they will always give priority and solve any issues that they have with Mile High Comics compared to like a small shop.
Compared to the shop I used to go to that closed down a year or two ago, Comic Town. They got ignored. They got shipments completely just ignored. a
Yeah.
lot. Like,
And
there would be weeks where no DC books came in. There'd
if
be
you don't,
weeks where no Marvel books came
right.
in. Like,
And then
like
here's the problem with that. Where for your smaller stores, for people that don't actually like know the logistics or the business side of this, right? Let's say Nerdtooine owes a huge comic book store, right? And his books are always in time. If there's any issues, if they get sold, quick, fast. Compared to, like, let's say JJ and me, we have smaller stores, we have small clientels, right?
where it might take him a week to get a problem fixed, it's gonna take us like 3
Months,
months.
right? Let's say this week I didn't get my books on time, right? Um, I could have a small percentage of my customer base that will say, "Oh, okay, I'll come back next week and get my polls, get my subscriptions, or get my variants," right? But the people that just walked in every week, or new customers, or people that don't have the patience, they will go check on JJ's store on that same day, and
And if
if
they don't see
JJ,
Batman on that shelf and they came in for Batman, they're
yeah,
not buying nothing else because they
they'll
wanted
leave my
Batman.
store.
They will
They'll
And
leave.
leave.
they're coming
Yeah,
And
to
I just
my
lost a
store
customer
exactly.
where I
because now
have
he thinks
everything.
Yeah.
right,
So
because
get
now he thinks
right.
I'm never gonna carry Batman books because he
So
didn't have it last time I went in there, so why would I go in there looking for it this time?
so guess
Yeah.
what happens? All of those books I sell to other people, all other people that are not subscribers. I bought. They're in my store, and they're just gonna sit on the stands, and they're more than likely they're just gonna end up in the back issues, right? And it is something that I didn't think about until my LCOs told me. Specifically, variant covers, your B, C, D, whatever your
Yep.
ratio, specifically your ratio of variant covers. If you don't sell them the week they come out, forget
You're
about
not
it.
selling them.
They're gonna go, yeah, because if somebody comes to my store and I don't have like the B variant, they'll go to your store. If you don't have it, they'll go to the big store, and more than
They'll
likely
probably
they,
have it.
yeah, they'll have it. I lost out on that sale, and then I lost out on that money that I invested on those variant covers. So it's like it trickles down heavy
Quick.
towards the bottom, right? It's not like, trickle down economics that exponentially you get some of that money coming. No, the
At least
effect.
theorically, that's how the trickle down
Well,
system
yeah,
work.
theoretically, right? I didn't.
That's
We
a
don't have to
whole
get
other
into it.
podcast.
We know it doesn't work, but in theory, that's how people expect it to work. But in the comic book side of the business,
I think I
it,
broke nerds.
the way it trickles down, the loss is heavier towards the bottom, right?
Yeah,
Towards
100%.
your
Yeah.
local comic book store that has, a handful of people that that have subscriptions. That, there are people that do this, that pull 20 books every week. They'll come out and they say, let me get my pulls, and they'll go put them back on the shelves. People do that, right?
Yeah.
Right?
I've watched
uh
it happen. I've done it.
right. Like if I
I don't
wanted
do
the
polls, so I've never
Pichimoco,
done it.
bro, if I'm pulling X-Men, right? I'll get the main cover, and then I'll go to the shelf and exchange it for my Pichimoco, right? If it's not there, I'll be like, okay, I'll just keep whatever the A cover. It's fine, right? Other people will just put it on the shelf, go to the next store and get the variant that they wanted, right?
Mhm.
That's a loss. Why? Because Diamond didn't set the book on time.
Right, and that person already went and found it at another shop.
I'm not. We're not blaming the customer. Let's just be
No,
clear
but
about
this is
that.
just the reality of
This is
how
the reality of it,
people
right?
are. Like, if I'm looking for something and I don't find it at one shop, I may even have loyalty to that shop. But if
Right.
they ain't got what I'm looking for, I'm gonna go find it somewhere else.
Yeah, you can't expect the
It's
loyalty from the
supply
customers
and demand.
to save the back practices or the back businesses from the distributor.
Yeah,
You
no,
see
it's
what I'm
not the
saying?
customer's job
Yeah,
to bail that out.
yeah,
In all honesty, that should be on that. All this is on Diamond, all of
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
That's all we're trying to say. That's all we're trying to say, right? Like who
And to your point with shops, especially if you go to this next one, like there's companies that have return policies. So like if there's unsold copies of stuff from Dynamite or Distillery, you can send those back as a shop owner and recoup some of that loss, and then they can put it on their online store as inventory that they can sell direct.
Yeah.
Like all it is like stuff that didn't sell at the shop. It's perfectly fine. It's probably not damaged. It's probably never even been looked at or touched. but you can't do that. If Diamond goes, you can't do that anymore.
And if you look at like what was said on the slide here, like smaller prints like Massive and some other smaller publishers, that's either going to be strictly subscription or special orders only.
Meaning if it's not on your pull list, it's not going to be in the store
at all.
They're only going to order as many as they need to order.
See? Oh, excellent point by
exactly
Paperback Dan, right? Dan. Let's say you go to my store, you go to JJ store, you didn't find it, you say, okay, I'm not gonna run around town anymore. I'm just gonna buy it online from eBay, from Amazon,
or whatnot, or whatever.
Yeah, or whatnot, right? And then that money that was supposed to go to the local economy, right? To your local businesses, it's gone because the distributor didn't send that book on time or didn't, right? Like, if there's been occasions that I go to my store and George will say there was an issue with the delivery, not the shipping, the delivery. It will be here on Friday. I could be, okay, I can hold on till Friday, right? Most people can wait a day or two, no biggie, right? But if I go there and my store says the books are not here, we don't know what happened. We reach out to Diamond. We don't know where they're going to be here. Most people are not going to wait.
And that's what I've heard so many times at comic shops is, yeah, we've called them, but, you know, you can't get nobody on the phone. Or, yeah, we've sent an email to our rep, but nobody's gotten back to us. Or, they got back to us, but they haven't done what they said they're going to do. So I'm still waiting on it.
Last week, they said this week. This week, they're saying next week.
Next week, like it's just a never-ending chain of bullshit.
I actually spoke to one of the local comic shops, the owner. I was talking to him about it, and they had an issue because they're going under the Diamond program. The thing we were talking about earlier about what they used to order
all
just
their
went
software,
down.
all their logistics.
It just went down, and orders were lost across the board. So they reached out
money
to
that's
their
already
rep.
been spent.
Exactly. They reached out to their rep and was like, so we wanted to confirm our orders in. And the rep told them, like, we don't have any record of your order. What are you talking? What order? And they've already paid for said order, mind you. So luckily he had a backup because he's kind of OCD like me and backs up everything just because. And he was like, here, I just sent you the email. That's my order. Here's the number receipts. Showing that I paid this. And okay, we'll get it right out to you.
By the way, real quick, here, I just noticed what shirt you're wearing.
Yeah.
That's my shirt.
Yeah,
I forgot I ever even made those.
Yeah. JJ used to have this online shop. I don't know if you still have it. And
it should be up still. I don't know though. I haven't looked at it in a while. I should probably check that and see if there's any money in there.
JJ over here sitting on a bill.
Right. I don't even know about it. I doubt it, but hey, it'd be nice.
Yeah, he's
speaking of money,
shit like
I did the research and found a list of everything they've reported that they owe to every single publisher, and it's a lot of money. This is all from MSN.com. I didn't call these places and ask. So this is just the numbers I could find. But these are small companies. And the fact they owe this much money to some of these companies is insane to me.
Let me put this into context really quick, right?
Almost $250,000 to Oni Press.
So here's the problem for small publishers, right? They declare bankruptcy. Once the creditors start to pull in money from Diamond to pay all these bills, the order of business is the first people to get paid is who is owed the most to who is owed the least.
And you're not getting the full amount. You're going to get a certain percentage on the dollar. So you're probably going to get like 25, 35% if you're lucky of what you're owed.
Right. Because they first have to dispose, use whatever money they have available, and then they start liquidating. Thank you. Their warehouses, their shipping trucks, their equipment, their I know they make money from selling their branch in Europe, so that money is already probably invested in paying the debt, right? If you are a smart publisher and you depend on a couple $1,000s to survive for the next quarter, you're not next in line. You're probably bottom of the list.
I was going to say, for a perfect example, look at Blood Moon. We talked about them earlier, how they have to completely shut up shop for a while.
Exactly.
They're only owed $8,000.
if they depend exactly, they depended on that $8,000 to
To pay
continue
their team, to pay for printing, to pay to get their
to,
books out
yeah,
on shelves.
to keep the lights on.
Yeah.
$8,000 compared to other people that are almost a $250,000. That $8,000 could have kept that small publisher in business for at least another quarter, right?
Like,
And
how do
they
you owe
not gotta
Battle
get that
Quest
money,
No, hold on, hold on.
$1,100? How do you
It,
owe
it,
Battle Quest
it,
$1,100?
it
bro.
definitely,
$13 to Band of Bards. You can't
Yo,
pay
They're a brand
$13.
new company. How do you already owe them
That's it.
money? Like,
You know what? I'm about to pay that debt for them. I'm a
right,
find Band of Bar.
like,
You want
Get him on the
like, I've
phone.
$15?
reviewed
I
a couple
got
of their
you.
books. They put out good, real interesting stuff too. It's real
Come on,
different
man.
stuff. Like, it's
But
like,
like,
come on, guy. You can't
$8,000
pay
is
a
really not.
$13 bill.
Eight
That's
grand
I
really
can
is
pay a
not
$13 bill
lot.
and I got $10 in my bank account. How you do that, man?
This
listen.
information is from MSN.com. We're
So,
gonna have the links.
yeah, in every
the
slide we have,
replay.
there's a source
Breakdown.
from the information is coming from.
Also, in the description, I sent Nerdtooine all the links where I found all this, so you guys can go, and I'm sure you can probably find even better, more information than I did.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, JJ, the reason we have JJ here, number one, is because we love him and we missed him. And number two, JJ has been
I've
on
been
top.
trying to follow
He's been,
this
yes.
so
It-
closely.
listen, I'm in like, I don't know, like 6 Discord servers. I share like 6 Discord servers with JJ, and he be like keeping everybody up to date in every single update, news, article, anything that comes out.
And we haven't
that's
even showed
regarding-
you guys or talked about everything that's
Right.
going on. There's still Dark Horse and Boom that are owed a bunch of money. Then they're having to deal with layoffs. And like, I mean, it's insane. It just goes on and on and on. It's basically, there's not a single comic book creator that is not affected by this at some level.
Yeah,
That's it.
we're not here ringing the bell saying the comic book industry is over or this is the
No,
collapse
but
of
this
the
is
comic
going to
book
be
industry.
a real blow to a lot of small companies,
Exactly. This is gonna hurt the
which
indie
is
scene.
my specialty. I'm kind of the indie guy.
This is gonna hurt the indie scene, and when you lack,
Even like I said, our show has gotten hurt by it because we've had guests cancel because they don't know if their books are going to come out.
books that are already done, right?
Books that are done.
Books that are already done, right?
And in some cases, it's like a 5-book series that's done and ready to
Oh
start
my
coming out.
God.
But everything's on hold everywhere right now, basically.
So, yeah,
let me-
I'm not going to
as
put
a
names and things out
creator-
there. I don't want to put people's business out there.
As
but
a creator, I want to say how hurt that would make. I have my first book getting printed. I'm working. I'm one of the few, because I'm such a small creator, both in stature and in appeal.
don't let the close up fool you.
Right. That's why
trying
I'm
to
so
make
big,
himself
because-
look bigger than us because we're tall. Me and you are both 6 foot or taller. So.
But yeah, so I am just one book in. I'm working on my second issue. If I had 5 issues and I was just told by my publisher, listen, we don't know what we're gonna do. We don't know when it's gonna come out. We're sorry. Just hang tight.
And that publisher
One-
currently owes you money for those books you just gave them.
Yeah, that's
But
one.
it's not their fault they can't pay you because they have to wait
And
for Diamond to
two,
pay them. These
If you look at it
don't have
also,
piles of cash laying around.
it's not like you can just go, fine, if you don't want to do it, I'll put it out myself. And I would say 99.999% of cases, you've already signed a contract for them to be the ones who print it. I'm sure there's always exceptions to the rule. I'm not going to say it's across the board.
Right. And I'm
But-
sure there's small companies that would be willing to let people out of their contracts in extenuating
Right.
circumstances.
But they're not, most cases, you're not just able just to go crowdfund it yourself. They might let you crowdfund it. Like I know SourcePoint, a few years back, they were letting a few of their creators do, like, listen, if you can get the money to print it and do everything, we'll publish it. And if it
And that,
doesn't
I
raise
think,
the
is gonna
money,
be
then
the route
sorry.
that a lot of these things go now. I think because
agree.
you and me have been talking about this since we met, basically.
Yeah.
Nerdtooine. I mean, you've talked about it with me too on multiple occasions. The crowdfunding, it works.
Yep.
I mean, it's sad that you have to, basically go on the internet and beg your readers for money.
I'm living proof that it works.
But the good side of that is the people who are paying you that money actually care if your book comes out.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like the people that the way I look at it is you're with a GoFundMe or something or a Kickstarter or whatever you're going to use to promote your shit and try to get people to back you.
Those are the people that actually want your book, and they're not trying to just buy it to resell it or to make a penny, make $1 off it.
Because they think it's going to be a collector's item, or
exactly.
or some big company wants to slowly steal all the rights away from you so they could turn it into a freaking cartoon later down the line or something.
That sucks, by the way.
Right? Yeah. Or a crappy stop motion video game or something like that.
And I think that's a lot of things that when we look at the comic book industry as a whole, even the Marvel and DC have gotten exponentially better in the I maybe call it the renaissance of indie, where all of these indie promotions started coming up out of nowhere and delivering great titles. And I want to send a little gratuitous shout out to James Tynion, because I feel he was a huge catalyst in making this happen. When someone of his capabilities not only creates something like Something's Killing the Children and puts freaking that whole studio on the map, and then you look at him leaving DC when he's writing fucking Batman and Joker. Who walks away from Batman and Joker?
Somebody who wants more creative freedom over their properties.
And what he did was he went off on his own. He started releasing some of his own stuff through Substack, and his fans, like me, backed him when he did that move. We gave him a whole bunch of money, and he used that to basically launch as a super backer.
I get what paper
launched Distillery, and Distillery might be the one saving grace from this entire situation. If you want to try to find like a glimmer of hope,
because it's a successful model that other indie creators can look at and be like, okay, it's possible without Marvel and DC. I can do this and find a way to make a living off of this without the big companies.
Yeah,
you just have to find that small loyal audience that's willing to invest in you instead of looking for these major billion-dollar companies to invest in your project. And when they don't care about you as a person or your actual creativity or your art.
I mean, listen,
wouldn't you rather have the people who are going to end up with the book in their hands in the first place be the ones who helped you make the book a physical object?
I am like a super ridiculously small creator, and I was able to raise for an ash can and an issue 1 over $5,000 to be able to print my books.
And it's because
I'm a nobody.
All
I did was put in the work.
Yep. You went on like a podcast circuit, dude. Like
for
that ash can, I've never seen somebody put so much effort into getting an ash can backed. An 8-page preview comic. Like it's not even a full comic book.
When I tell you, like a lot of people say the pandemic was a horrible thing for them, and it was a horrible thing for the world, and a lot of bad things happened. But it honestly saved my life, because it allowed me to refocus my efforts onto the things that I actually cared about. And when I first met you, JJ, and you, I was just starting that creative process to write my book. And once it
I think at first you only messaged a few of us to tell us about it because you didn't want everybody else to be like, bro, it's never going to work, bruh, you're wasting your time, bruh. Like,
and I still got that from the
where
people
you think you Stan Lee, bruh? Like,
I'm the first Nerdtooine, bitch.
But we've all dealt with those kind of people before as a creative, whether you're just a content creator, whether you're making books, whether you're a musician, whatever you're trying to do something. Somebody out there is going to be like, bro, why are you wasting your time with that?
The market's oversaturated, bro. There's
right, bro. There's no way. I'm like, okay,
there.
well, then tell that to Nerdtooine's book that is a horror book with zombies in it that's still getting a bunch of attention. Tell that to me and Longbox with our independent comic book podcast that is now 10 subscribers away from 1,000. Go to the Indie Inkwell YouTube and please subscribe. You guys would
do that.
Oh, that would be so epic.
We kind of consider ourselves like cousin podcasts. Like they go every other week. So like when they're on, we're off, and when we're on, they're off. So like,
plus Nerdtooine has been a guest host and a guest and a panelist on our show multiple times.
It's like my second home.
It really is. Like, we love having you over there. You were our first guest. But it's
Oh.
that right there is what is going to take to get the indie side of the comic industry over this, is fans and readers actually putting their money where their mouth is and supporting these creators that they say they love so much.
Let me say this. And this is ties into the question that Paperback Dan had, right? He said, I feel like crowdfunding is dangerous because how long until that well dries up? Okay, let me say this. As somebody that kind of knows the history and the timelines of what Comics Gate used to be, if you look at what they did, right, outside of like their ideologies or politics, they used their platforms to crowdfund a shitload of projects, right? Number one, the only reason they fell off is because they
That
failed.
wasn't the only reason, but that was part of it.
The main reason their crowdfunding startups and projects dried up is because they failed to deliver on time or at all on their books, right? If you go down the list of a lot of people that were Comic Gates creators or were sponsored or were given a platform through the Comics Gate people, they deliver 18 months out, 24 months out. There are projects that were fully backed, like, you know, they went over for hundreds of thousands of dollars that still to this day, 4 or 5 years later, have not been delivered, right? People that backed a Kickstarter, people that backed a whatever, and still to this day don't even have a digital copy of the book, right? That is the main reason that their entire platform fell off the map, right? Because it's not about the
That's why
quality.
now people struggle to get backers on Kickstarter,
Mhm.
because people remember that. They
Yeah.
remember getting burned.
It was back to back creators that just were not delivering on time, and it's not because they have like just the exact right amount of money and they have to come out of pocket. No, there were projects that, you know, they were
Some
asking
of them
for,
were
let's
like
say,
$100,000 past what they
yeah,
needed.
there were projects that needed $8,000 or $10,000 to put out 1 or 2 books with all the little extra, you know, additional stuff that they promised, and they ended up getting 80,000, 60,000, and they never put out the book or didn't put it out on time, right?
And people
That
got like stickers and keychains and shit.
Yeah, those things, those experiences that backers had is what dried up that well for that platform, right? People like Nerdtooine that never went on a platform as big as that was able to raise through Kickstarter enough funds to put out 2 projects, right? And they were delivered. Um, if what I'm trying to say is, if creators put out projects and they deliver on time, that will, you know, earn the trust and confidence of the customers and the consumers to not only back them in the future but promote their stuff, right? Because
Mhm.
if I like your project, loved it, but it was late by a year, you think I'm gonna, you know, for your next round or your next iteration, the next project, I'm gonna ask my friends or family or people that follow me, right? Tell them on my platform, hey, Nerdtooine's putting another book. You might want to check it out. You might want to support it. No, right? If I have some integrity or some
Right.
full
Have any
disclaimer,
shred of integrity, you're
right?
not going to direct your friends, family, or viewers
Right.
to go and give somebody money that's not going to give them their end product.
Exactly. So
Yeah. And
The
now I
reason
do
I
want to say,
believed in the beginning that Nerdtooines was going to be good was because I knew how much passion he was putting into it before anything even got announced.
and we
I,
also saw the
The
the project.
progression of the work going into
Yeah,
it.
yeah, because he will hit you. It's like, hey, this is page 2.
Right.
What you?
take a
And
look
he
at
will
this.
say,
Bro, I get
tell me.
raw pencil sketches in my DMs, okay? Like stuff that doesn't even have ink or a background yet.
Bro. Nerdtooine would say, hey, this is page 2. tell me what you hate about it. I was like, whoa, bro, calm down.
Right, but it's the right question asked slightly the wrong way. You know,
Right.
it's not what do you hate about this? It's hey, bro, what do you think I can improve on? You
Nah.
gotta be nicer
Hate
for
it. I know you hate
yourself
it.
sometimes.
When he came at me like that, I already knew there was something he didn't like. So I had to identify on my own, and they say, okay, bro, this is a little
It's
off.
almost like talking to your girlfriend and she's trying to tell you, no, nothing's wrong, but she's sitting there and won't look
I'm
at you.
fine.
Like-
I'm fine.
And now you just have to figure out what you did wrong.
Basically, that's how,
With no information.
that was the dynamic. No, man, but yeah. So I hope that answers your question, paperback. Then, like,
And
yes,
Paperback,
Yeah,
I
we
also-
tend
I
to ramble
also-
on when we're answering questions.
yeah,
I
there
also
are
do
people that are
think-
still willing to back projects as long as those creators deliver right
Mhm.
on time.
If
Forget
I
about
know
the
that I'm going to
quality.
get the
Yeah,
book, I'll back anybody's stuff,
yeah.
really.
Forget about the quality. Forget about if it's good or not. The main thing is they have to deliver on time, right?
Because
And-
even if it is your first book and you don't think it's like that great or whatever, at least finish it and put it out and give it to the people who backed you. Because it's
I see where
just like
Paperback's
with videos or music or whatever, when you first start doing something, the very first thing you're going to do is probably going to suck. But that's why you
So-
ask people for input. That's why you improve things. That's why you know what I'm saying? Like you tweak here and there. Nerdtooine, the first thing he ever sent me didn't look that great. But by the end of the fucking, or I'm sorry, God, my language is horrible
so
today. I don't know
we got
why.
one left. We got
We got a 3 limit, right?
Yeah.
All right. All right.
limit.
I'm gonna keep that third one in the back pocket just in case.
Oh, you are
But-
not stealing that from me like Wolverine would do to Deadpool. No, you are not. No, but to answer Paperback Dan's question, I see exactly where he's going. That's what I was going to speak on. So his basically saying that if these bigger names start moving over to crowdfunding, it's going to. Oh, that's not supposed to be there. So hold on.
I was like, what is this transition? What's going on?
Oh yeah, that's
That was
another
a
quote
horrible-
from. That's a quote we didn't end up able to get to.
We'll
'cause I
get
don't
to
wanna
that in a
keep it
second.
here
So
all
here,
night, but-
here we go. So I do agree that if these bigger names and indie presses start going onto Kickstarter, it's going to make it harder for smaller people to actually get their books out there. And one thing I think to say to that is, you're right. You're 100% right. But what it's going, I think and this is
make
me
everybody
as the
step their game
creator.
up.
Thank you. Me as a creator, I'm going to try to spin this in the most positive way as I can. There's going to be a lot of people
More
that may not
competition is
make
not
it.
necessarily a bad thing.
I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to either shape up or ship the hell out.
Well, and
I think
also
that
one
might
thing
be
you'll
good,
find as a
but
creator in this industry, and one thing I've noticed as a media person in the industry is the indie side is not as competitive with each other as you would think.
yes, well, because we all kinda
Many
wanna see
indie
each other's
creators
thing.
are super supportive of other indie creators. Like you will probably get your first couple books backed by more other creators than you will actual readers.
That's a good example of that is I was showing my wife, they are like these European creators that have like made their way into the market here in America, right? Like you have people like Maria Love and people like Loana Vecchio that are basically translating their work into like an American comic book format through Image, right? And you see all the time that Maria Love and Loana Vecchio do variant covers for their projects. Like they support each other in that way, right? And that's just one way to do that. So yeah, I agree. Indie creators don't be stepping on each other's necks to prosper, right? They're all coming up. They're all on the come up together, if you will.
Yep, there's down in Cincinnati, you guys, if you ever watched the Indie Inkwell, you've probably seen me talk to a few of these people, but Cincinnati has such a huge independent comic book scene. It's insane. They have festivals, they have focus groups, they have, they have meetups and they have draw and drinks and they have, all these cool events, but it's all to help support each other. They formed a big coalition. They do theater, they do magazines, they do anything they can do to help boost each other. And I think we're
And
just going to start
that's
seeing a
awesome.
lot more of that happening because people are going to realize almost nobody can do any of this on their own 100%.
Trust
I mean,
me.
even Nerdtooine, he had to find an artist.
Trust me.
He had to find somebody to print those suckers. You know, you like he had to have somebody teach him how to use Restream. He had to
No, I didn't. I just woke up and knew how to do that. There's a
but that's
standard,
my point. Like,
and
I
it's
had to have
horrible in
somebody
me.
teach me how to do this. I had to have somebody donate me my first webcam. You know, like it's nobody does this 100% on their own.
No, and I think that's one saving grace. If we are going to try to find some silver lining, is that I think all this really means for us who love indie comics is that we actually got to show that we love indie comics. We can't just say we love indie comics anymore. If you're either going to create them or buy them or back them, whatever your lane is,
Yeah, it's
we
time to
have to
step up
show up.
and support the industry that is struggling. Like, if we don't want to see it go away, we have to help keep it up. It's not our responsibility to save it necessarily, but we do have to do something to help.
Yeah, I think we may not be the ones controlling it, but we got to at least have a hand on the wheel, if nothing but to hang on for dear life.
Yeah, because I mean, if the indie side of things goes away, what's the point of my show? What's the point of your show? What's the point of you making books if you can't distribute them? You know, I mean, what's the point of Year of the Collector doing stuff for Nerd Initiative if there's nothing to do reviews on? Like, I mean,
So basically what he's saying is, please help us save the indie comic community so we don't see grown men crying.
I was saying, and this was like, I think I partially suggested this episode, or me and Kyle kind of, you know, meshed ideas on it because we're like, we saw it happening long before a lot of people did.
Yeah.
We've been seeing this coming since the pandemic because Diamond never recovered from the pandemic and we knew something was going to happen. I just don't think we expected this in particular to happen, but I expected publishers to start dropping indie people is what I expected to start happening. And Diamond just dropped everybody. So
we're out. Peace.
Right. Like,
and I keep coming back to this, and it's because there's competition. Granted, this is a dark time, this is a scary time, but at somewhere
these are the times
along
to breed
this
innovation,
line,
though. This is when new things are going to pop up that make things better.
And that's
that can go for everything happening for everybody worried about all the other craziness in the damn world right now.
Like, what do you mean? The world's perfectly calm and sane everywhere. What do you mean?
Once again, that's a whole other podcast. But like in general, though, like these kind of things,
everything's fine.
Right, as the dog sipping coffee while the room burns down around him.
This is fine. This is fine.
But I think at the end of it all, though, it will be all right. Because what this is going to do is it's going to scare everybody for a while, but then indie creators will do what indie creators always do and get stubborn and refuse to not put their stuff out.
You're not stopping me, some bitch.
Right. So it's going to be all right, but we definitely have to help if we're able to, like, buy a book from somebody. If you can't afford a book from somebody, buy a sticker from one of the characters in their book. Buy, like, you know, something. Donate $1 to their PayPal, like something to help their next book come out. Because
if you like the book, talk about it. Spread the word.
If you like reading these,
review,
then we need to help the creators out who are trying to keep us entertained.
Yeah, anything helps, really. Anything helps.
Yeah, no, and that's so true. Like, when you talk about just getting books funded, every little bit helps. People are like, oh, well, he's almost close to the goal. He doesn't need my $10. That $10 helps. Every single little bit.
Because even if they've already reached the goal, that extra $10 can go into making the next issue better.
Yep.
To pay for maybe a better letterer or a better artist or whatever the case may be. You know, like.
Me too.
Or, you know, better material, better quality paper, better whatever. Like,
yeah. No, again, I keep wanting to say it's not cheap or easy to make comic books, to sell comic books, to distribute them, get them in stores, the amount of steps you have to take, getting to conventions, like so you can talk about it to
that's
people
a
and
whole
get.
other podcast.
Oh
right
my
there.
God, yes it is. But when it's if we all just
We just
kind
thought of
of
like 5 new episodes for your guys' show just in this one conversation.
if we want the comic book industry as a whole, but especially indie comics to succeed, find small creators, give their comics a chance. If you don't, we're not saying if you don't like it, don't just spend the money because, but if you like it, keep going back because they'll keep
Look for
delivering.
interviews on people's shows, not just
reward your
mine. I'm not
faith.
trying to make this just a big long commercial for Indie Inkwell at all. Even though we do interview some really awesome creators, and you should go check
It's totally
them out.
fine if there is a long name. I'm just saying.
But no, like there's a lot of podcasts doing what we do now, and there's a lot of amazing creators out there that you just need to look for.
Yep.
So
Okay, so we try to keep these episodes at around an hour.
That's a lie. That's a lie.
I said try. I didn't say we do.
We don't
Come
try.
on,
We
when
don't
was
even
the last
try.
time
We say
any
we
of us
do
had
it,
a
but we
podcast
don't.
that ended on time or started on time?
Okay, well, hold on. Technically, part 2 of episode 2 was under an hour. We had to break it up into 2 parts, but it was technically under an hour.
Well, this one was not. But we had a lot of stuff to talk about. It's a big issue.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, since we're at the hour and 10-minute mark, do we have any final monologues in regards to this, or last?
I think I've said everything I can say as a person that just on the media side of things. Like, go support your favorite indie creators. Go to a local book signing and meet your indie creators because they go to the small comic shops all the time trying to push their books. Most of them are super awesome and nice to talk to. If you're a scared, shy introvert, so are they.
Yeah. No,
One thing I've noticed is even the big name comic book creators who I've gotten to talk to, a couple of them, they're pretty introverted, shy individuals. Dan Jurgens didn't say much when I interviewed him for GalaxyCon.
And that's what
I recorded all those interviews and all those panels I did that weekend. And a lot of those people, I had to kind of pry teeth to get them to give me more. You know, we got to fill up some time, guys.
I remember I saw that and it surprised me that Steve Orlando spoke more than Gianni Paquet in that Burn. Because Burn, I didn't say
I was told
some
before
crazy
that
shit.
panel by a couple of people who worked at the convention. They're like, Steve Orlando will try to take over your panel. Shout out though, Steve Orlando. You did not try to take over the panel. Everything you said was relevant.
He dropped a lot of true bombs that I
yes,
still to this day.
He spoke his mind, and that's what I want every guest to do.
Yeah.
Every person I talk to in an interview, I want them to not be scared of their publisher, and he was definitely not.
Bro, he was shitting on DC and Marvel, and he's employed by both now. So,
but he wasn't scared to call out the BS when he saw it, you know, like. And some people from that interview that in the comment section didn't like what he had to say about certain topics. And those are mostly fans who are on the more misogynistic side of things, you know?
Yeah.
Sweetie.
Because there was a whole conversation about Wonder Woman, and it was like a whole Wonder Woman panel. So of course it was a conversation about Wonder Woman, but
out to JJ, he had a panel with for Wonder Woman topic, right? Steve Orlando, Gianni Paquet, and John Byrne.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Was there somebody else?
There was. I can't even remember who was on every panel because I had 7 panels in 3 days that I only had 2 days to prepare for.
Right.
It was ridiculous.
Bro, that was crazy. But they were all Wonder Woman creators.
Because like the very first panel I had to do that weekend was Dan Jurgens. You know, like it was all Superman creators. It was all like the biggest Superman creators. The one after that was all Green Lantern people. So you had Ron Mars and Daryl Banks and like all these freaking legends. Then I had a Lobo and a Deadpool panel. So I got to talk to Simon Bisley and like, dude, like all these Ada Wong, like all these like megastar creators. And all of them are just nerdy introverts like the rest of us. except for Simon Bisley. Simon Bisley, extroverted nerd, very extroverted. You ask him a question, you will get a very honest answer.
Tell people where they can watch all of that right now.
On the Indie Inkwell YouTube channel, it is now called. I've rebranded all my social media. It is now no longer JJ's Comic Stuff. It is the Indie Inkwell, although it will still appear as JJ's Comic Stuff on certain pages because certain apps are lame and won't let you change your name after you've had it for so long.
Yeah,
so you can
great.
find all that stuff there. It's all in playlists. Every interview I've ever done is on that channel. So you guys can go check out all kinds of awesome indie creators and chats with bigger name creators.
Go follow, like, subscribe, everything in the Indie Inkwell in all social media platforms. Nerdtooine, last words.
Last words, famous last words. Well, let's start off with JJ. Thank you very much for joining us today and for providing all this great information, sourced information, like slide. You gave me slides, bro. Like that. Like, that's not something a guest normally does, and I want to thank you thoroughly.
I'm a very prepared individual, man. I don't like to go into something without all my information. So
and we appreciate that. Also,
like I said, I'm not an expert on any of the stuff we've talked about today. I'm not a legal expert. I'm not a bankruptcy expert. I'm not a tax expert. I'm not even very good with math. Okay. Just in general, but I'm good at research. So.
And definitely give JJ a follow. Check out the Indie Inkwell. If you want to check out the interviews that he was talking about, besides the panels, I was the very first ever guest.
He was on episode 1, Inkwell, I think episode 12, 1. I think episode 26, episode 38.
I've been a co-host, a guest, and a panelist. I love their content. Like I said, they're basically like a cousin podcast to us. When we're off the air, they are on the air almost the exact same time on the same day. We have been
on a bit of a hiatus recently because people have been canceling episodes because they don't know if their books are coming out. So bear with us while we keep trying to find new guests.
For the record, I am available. Also,
well, you got a new issue coming out soon anyway, so we're gonna have to talk again regardless.
It's working. It's working.
That's gonna be
working.
That's gonna be a pretty epic one. There's some reveals I know about that I can't say yet that I'm excited for. So,
and then also got to give a shout out to Year once again. Thank you, my friend, for joining me on this journey as we relaunch Planet Nerdtooine. Well, I guess launch Planet Nerdtooine. So make sure you follow Year. He does a great segment on all of our episodes where he calls "What is Year's issue?" and he just picks an issue of a current run and we just talk about it. Because
I kind of bogarted today's episode. Sorry, everybody.
No, that's good. We planned. I was like, listen. You ain't
give me a break this week.
This is what we're doing. We ain't gonna have no segments. But
this is only the second time I have not been the one doing the interview. So you want to talk about having a break, man? This is lovely for me.
Thank you for everyone who's been in the chat for this whole time. Paperback Dan, thank you so much for all your great comments. Cody Collects, always a pleasure having you guys in here. I'm sure I'm gonna miss somebody's name as I'm scrolling through here trying to say hi to everyone. And definitely give us a follow, subscribe. We're Planet Nerdtooine pretty much everywhere. And we will see you again in 2 weeks. And when we return, Year of the Collector is actually going to host that episode because he is going to be interviewing both me and the interior illustrator of my comic, Here Walks Monsters.
I haven't even gotten to interview your artist.
I haven't got to interview my artist.
we gotta fix that.
Somehow I have not gotten to interview Martin yet, and I'm like,
hey, listen, have your people call my people, and I have my people call his people, and we go get it lined up.
All right, but I gotta say, I just gotta let you know, my assistant, he's got ADHD. And he forgets things, so it's gonna take a while to get this set up. But I guarantee we'll get this set up. No,
it's okay because mine also has ADHD, and somehow those always work well together.
That's why it took so long to get this episode going.
But until next time, everyone, thank you so much for stopping by and stay nerdy, my friends.